So,
Because this is literally the only thing I believe for physics.
hmm?
How? Because this is literally the only thing I believe for physics.
Oh, great. Somebody remembers stuff. Okay, so this is what Dolly remembers from high school physics.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we've got these kinds of quantities that we use to measure stuff in physics. There's a quantity that's just a number, and there's a quantity that's a number with a direction. Which one is just the number?
Scalar.
Scalar. Which one is the direction and the number?
Vector.
Vector. And we have a way to define a direction for these vectors. We have these things called unit vectors. How large is the magnitude of a unit vector? 1. That's so if you multiply by something by a unit vector, you don't change the magnitude. It just gives you the direction. How do I denote the directions of the unit vectors? So usually when we talk about things in space and moving through space, we have coordinates, we have x direction, we have y direction, and we have a z direction. What are the unit vectors for each of those?
Are you talking about like the K hat, I hat?
Uh-huh. So what's the unit vector for the x direction? I with a little hat. What's the unit vector for y direction? J hat. And what's the unit vector for z direction? K hat. So we should be familiar with x, y, and z is also equal to I, j, and k. There are other letters that some people use for these unit vectors. You might see them written slightly differently. You might see them written as u, v, or what would z direction be? W. And put little vectors over them. These are the ones that you have on the little graphical assignment with drawing vectors. Okay, so you have some practice to do today with drawing vectors graphically, finding vectors graphically in a little vector treasure hunt. But I also want to show you how to do two vector operations. I want to show you an example of the dot product and the cross product. These are really, really useful and important as we keep going further in physics. So, a dot product. A dot B. We'll have two vectors, A and B. What is the general equation for A dot B?
AB cos theta.
A times B times cosine theta. A times B times cosine theta. So what this does is it gives you how much of one vector is going in the same direction as the other vector. So if I draw a vector A, I draw a vector B. This is taking the A vector and figuring out how much of the B vectors are going in that direction, or vice versa. So we can kind of project this vector downwards and figure out what A cosine theta is. That would be this side. It's A cos theta, if that is my angle theta. A dot B, the dot product, what kind of quantity does that give? A scalar or a vector? A scalar. So this gives just a number. Okay. Let's do the dot product of one of the vectors, two of the vectors that you had in your homework. So this is kind of an adjusted problem number 68. If you want to look back at that later on. Problem 68 gives us two vectors. It says find the dot product of A and cross product of A and C. Because this vector A is equal to, let's see, what is this? 2 in the I hat minus 4 in the J hat plus K hat. If I have just a K hat, what number is out in front of that K hat? 1 is implied. And then we have, they give us a vector C. That vector C, they say, is equal to 3 in the I hat plus 4 in the J hat, plus 10 in the K hat. I want to find the dot product. So the dot product, A dot C. Okay, how do I find a dot product? Caduce.
Right. The easy way, you should do like 2 times 3 plus minus 4 times 4 plus 1 times 10.
Okay. Sure. How did you know to do that? How do you jump straight to that? You're just good at physics.
Well, you can cancel out the ones that are at the same vectors, or when you do the
I can cancel stuff out?
Not yet.
How can I cancel stuff? Anybody know how I can cancel stuff out?
If they're parallel, you have the same letter, like either J or I.
They're parallel, then they cancel out? Parallel would be I and I. Does I cancel out with I? Let's write this out. I see confused faces, so let's write this out. We can do this by combining every single element of every single other element. So I can do 2, and I can multiply that by 3, and then I can do I hat dot I hat. So I can take every combination. So I'm taking that 2, multiplying it by the 3 to get the magnitude of the numbers out front, and then I dot I gives me the second part. Okay? And then I can do plus 2 times 4, and I can do I dot J. And I can do 2 times 10, and I dot K. Okay? So we should get used to doing this, because we're going to have to do this with the cross product if we do cross product the long way. Don't try to cheat and skip some stuff. Okay? So how does this work? How do I do I dot J?
It's 0.
I do A times B times cosine theta. The magnitude of I is 1. The magnitude of J is 1 times the cosine of the angle between the two. What's the cosine of I? What's the angle between I and J?
90 degrees.
90 degrees. So cosine 90. Very important now, take out your calculator. I mean this, literally take out your calculator and plug in cosine of 90.
Isn't it?
You want to see what you get. Take out your calculator, plug in cosine of 90. Serious, calculators, get them out. Plug in cosine 90. Okay, what do we get? Are we all getting negative 0.45?
Yes.
I got negative 0.45.
Negative 0.45.
Cosine of 90. I plugged in cosine 90. I got negative 0.45. How many got negative 0.0? Raise your hand if you got negative 0.045. Huh? What did other people get? 0. What should we be getting? 0. Should I be in radians or degrees? Is 90 degrees in radians or degrees?
Degrees.
Cosine of 90 degrees is in degrees. So we need to fix this. If you're using the Google calculator, I typed in cosine 90 and got negative 0.45. You can literally type in degrees and it'll give you out 0. So make sure that your calculator is giving cosine of 90 equals 0. If you don't have that, you're going to be getting answers wrong, and I will have no sympathy for you now because I just spent 10 minutes telling you. Okay? Calculator, put it in degrees so that you're getting cosine of 90 equals 0. So any vectors that are orthogonal, that are perpendicular to each other, are going to give you a 0 dot product because the cosine of the angle between the two gives you 0. So that means that is why I can cancel some of these out. I can cancel out the I dot J. I can cancel out the I dot K. I don't care about it. So the only things I care about are the ones that have the like terms. So if I did this again, so I already took care of the 2I, multiplied that into every element. Now I can do it with the 4J. So I have negative 4 times 3, and I have J dot I hat. What does that give me? 0. Why? Because they're 90 degrees to each other, so that gives me 0 because J dot I is 0. Then I can do plus a negative 4 times 4, j dot j. Okay, and then plus a negative 4 times 10, j dot k, and that gives also 0 because they are orthogonal to each other. They are perpendicular. Then I can do this again with the k direction. Oh, there's no number in front of k. What's the number that's implied?
1.
1. So I have 1 times 3, and I have k dot I plus 1 times 4 times k dot j plus 1 times 10 times k dot k. I'm going to cancel out my ones that are orthogonal. And then I'm left with, when I do a dot c, 3 times 2, what's that? 6. I dot I, what's that?
2i squared.
I squared, and what is I squared? What's the magnitude of I?
1.
1. So what's 1 times 1?
1.
1. What happens to the direction?
It doesn't change it.
I dot I, dot product. What does it give you? Vector or scalar?
Scalar.
Scalar. So when you multiply two unit vectors together as a dot product, it just gives a number. So that I dot I becomes just 1. So I just have this number, 6 times 1. Plus, what's negative 4 times 4?
Negative 16.
Negative 16. You can use a calculator for it too. Google will get it right if you just type in negative 4 times 4. What's j dot j? 1. And then last is 1 times, oh my God, I can't read my own handwriting. That looks like 1 times 1 tooth. 1 times 10 is 10. And what's k dot k?
1.
1. So is this my final answer?
No.
Well, we have to sum it up.
No, let's add it up. What's 6 plus negative 16 plus 10?
0.
Holy crap. A dot c equals 6 plus negative 16 plus 10 is 0. The dot product is 0. What does that mean for these two vectors?
They're perpendicular.
They're perpendicular to each other. That's crazy. They're just the same as k dot I. They're perpendicular. They're at 90 degrees to each other. It's nuts. But you can calculate it out. When you're doing the dot product, you will always get a number. You should not have any vectors associated with this, and you should always, always circle your final answers. There are shortcuts for all of these things. You can use shortcuts. I'm fine with that. But if you get the wrong answer, I can't give you partial credit. So if you go through and you write all of this out, and I see that you transcribed a number wrong, then I can give you 9 out of 10. If you use shortcuts and you go from the question straight to the answer and you have something wrong, I can give you like 2 out of 10. So I always recommend writing things out. Any questions on the dot product? Or the scalar product? It gives me a number, just a number. No? Okie dokie. Let's do the cross product of this. Let's do A cross C. So I have 2 in the I hat minus 4 in the j hat plus the k hat. And I'm going to cross that into 3 in the I hat plus 4 in the j hat plus 10 in the k hat. What's the general equation for the cross product? It's not AB times cosine theta. What is it? AC times sine of theta.
So that's the magnitude.
That's the magnitude. This also has a direction that goes along with it. So let's figure out how to do the direction. All right, let's take these out. Let's multiply them out same way we just did the dot product. So I do 2 times 3, and I do I times I cross I. So that cross means something very specific. I cross I. What is the angle between I and I?
0.
0. Sounds like an English question. Some Shakespeare poem or something. Okay, I cross I, angle is 0. What's the sign of 0?
1. Wait, 0,
It's
right?
0.
0.
Okay. Plug it in. What do you got?
0.
Sign of 0 is 0. So if you have two vectors that are parallel, what is going to be the answer for the cross product?
0.
0 cancels out. What if they're anti-parallel to each other? So one is going right and one is going left. What's that angle?
Again, 180.
180. What's the sign of 180?
0.
0. So if you're anti-parallel, you get a 0 out. Okay, so these same directions are going to go away. And then we'll have, let's see, what do we have next? Plus 2 times 4 I hat cross j hat. Okay, so I'm doing the 2 times the 4 and doing the I crossed into the j. You got to make sure that you keep that order consistent. Don't skip up the order. And then we'll do 2 times 10, and we'll do I cross k. Any questions on this? This is super useful. It doesn't seem like it now. This is used all over the place. This is used in linear algebra. This is used in data science. This is used in all sorts of machine learning, AI algorithms, which you're all going to end up having to use at some point probably. How many of you are going into medicine? Going to be doctors? Yeah, you're going to be using AI and machine learning and computer programming. How many are just going to go into a lab and go work in a lab and do lab work? You are going to be using this stuff, okay? You're going to be expected to learn it and understand it. So we'll see if we can give you a head start. Let's do the second batch. So we distributed that 2i into everything. Now let's distribute the -4. So I have -4 times 3. And what do I have for the vectors?
J cross I.
I'm doing 4 times 3, j cross I. Can I do I cross j?
No.
No. Have to keep the consistent direction. J hat cross I hat. Okay, plus -4 times 4 and j cross j. What does that give?
0.
0, because they're parallel. And then plus 1 times 10. Or sorry, no. Bad boobar. -4 times 10. -4 times 4. -4 times 10. It's a long bike ride in. J hat cross K hat. Okay. Got that distributed. Now we'll do the last one. Plus 1 times 3 times K hat cross I. Plus 1 times 4 times K hat cross J. Plus 1 times 10 K cross K. That last one cancels out.
It's like tic-tac-toe.
It's very much like tic-tac-toe. Okay. So now we can multiply some of these numbers together. We can do 2 times 4. That gives me 8. But I still have to do this cross product, I cross j. I do 2 times 10. That gives me 20. I cross k. The cross product is kind of the weird part. -4 times 3 is 12. J hat cross I hat. -4 times 10 is -40. J hat cross K hat. 3 times 1 is 3. K hat cross I hat. And 4 times 1 is 4. K hat cross J hat. Okay. How do we do this now? How do I find what I cross J gives?
Is this?
Do you know, Alyssa? I don't remember. What's the rule you can use? Yeah.
Oh,
Just the one that's not there. So if it's I and J are being crossed, then it's just K.
Ah, that could work. So ij, the one that's missing is k, so it's got to be k. But is it positive or negative k?
Positive.
You have to do the circle.
To do circle? What's circle?
So if it's I to J, then it would be positive.
Okay, how do you know that?
I have a picture
This one homework.
I never written down.
Anybody else have an idea? Yeah.
If it's going clockwise, it means it's positive.
Clockwise.
Counterclockwise, it's negative.
Sounds like I should draw this circle. How do you draw this circle? What is this?
Perfectly
it's in
round
alphabetical
circle.
order.
I up there,
Going down.
J up there, K over here.
And then it's addition going clockwise.
If you go clockwise, it's positive.
And going counterclockwise is negative.
Going counterclockwise is negative. You could use that. That'll work. You can also use something called the right-hand rule. Right-hand rule. Anybody want to use the right-hand rule? Nobody wants to use the right-hand rule. We'll get into the right-hand rule later. We'll use this for now. Okay, so I cross J. If I go I, and then I go next is J, I keep following my circle. There's a positive to get me to K, so that's got to be K. So this is going to be 8 in the K hat direction. Okay, plus 20. I cross K. So I go to I. If I want to get to K, I have to go backwards. So because I'm going backwards, I've got a negative. I cross K, and then I keep going backwards, I get to J. And because I went opposite, what do I have?
Negative J.
I have a negative J. J cross I, let's see, J, I'm going backwards to get to I, so I have to go backwards again to get to K, so that's got to be a negative K. Negative 40, J cross K, let's see, J, I go to around the outside, I get to K, I go around the outside to get to I, so that's got to be positive. K cross I, let's see, where's K? Here's K. From K to get to I go around the outside, do positive. I keep going around the outside, I get to positive J. And then 4 times K cross J. Let's see, where's K? There's K. From K to get to J, I have to go around the inner part. So I keep going backwards. It gets me to the negative I. Okay, so now what can I do? Is that the final answer?
Imagine.
No. What do I need to do?
Need to combine.
Can I add 8K plus negative 20J? Can I just combine those?
No.
Why not?
You have to combine like terms.
Combine like directions. So I can only combine things that are going in the same direction. What happens in K direction goes with K direction, J direction, J direction, I direction, I direction. So I can combine all I's with I's, all J's with J's, all K's with K's. Yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say this is the Las Vegas one.
Yeah. This is what I call Las Vegas. What happens in one direction stays in that direction. So let's do the I's first, because typically when we write a vector, we write I components first. So I would have, what is that? Negative 40I plus negative 4I. What does that give me?
Negative 40 plus negative 4i.
Negative 40I plus
44i.
negative 4I is negative 44I hat.
Is it negative because the I with the 4 is negative?
So that negative gets distributed in. J hat. I have negative 20 J hat plus 3 J hat. What does that give me?
Negative 17.
Negative 17 J hat.
And then K.
We'll do a plus
Would
and
The
negative.
two negatives cancel each other out and make a positive?
Absolutely. Negative 12 times negative K gives me positive 12K hat plus 8K hat
20 K hat.
plus 20K hat.
And my calculator's outside.
Okay.
How did you get -44?
How do I get negative 44? I did negative 40 I hat. Right there. Plus negative 4 I hat to get negative 44. These things take practice.
So it doesn't matter if it's negative I and positive I?
So when you combine these get multiplied together. So that's 4 times negative 1 to give you the negative 4. Okay. And then negative 12 times negative 1 gives me that positive 12 there. These take practice. That cross product is probably the weirdest thing that you do all semester. Do you agree with that, Alyssa? Cross product is probably the weirdest thing. But it comes back, right? Yeah. You won't escape it.
Yeah.
Stupid vectors.
It's not the hardest thing, but it's definitely takes something to get used to.
It's the weirdest, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So they just take practice, just keep practicing this over and over again. And I should note that when I do problems in class, if I make mistakes and I get the wrong answer, then I guarantee that problem won't be on your exam. So check and make sure that I got the right answer. I did? Yay! Okay, so for class today, you have your in-class assignment, which is up on Canvas. It's doing a treasure hunt with vectors. Also a extra credit challenge. I want to see if you can explain this to me using vectors. So what we have here, I have a bucket that's filled with a bunch of little weights. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the bucket. And I want somebody to come over here and tell me what this little scale reads when I lift the bucket. Anybody that can see it?
The pressure.
Shout out, what is this number right here? You can get closer. 1,000 grams. That's G, that stands for grams, not acceleration due to gravity. 1,000.
It's in a bag, so that's why.
Now, we're going to go a little bit crazy. And we're going to use this weird apparatus to lift it up. So how much do I have to be able to lift, according to this little scale?
1,000 grams.
1,000 grams. So I should be putting out 1,000 grams. Let's see if I can get this to work. Come on, there we go. Okay. Confirm it's not touching the chair, right?
It's not.
What does that number read still?
1,000.
1,000 grams. Now somebody come read this number. It's what? Can you see that from there?
Okay,
Yeah?
books.
No. Yeah, somebody come read it.
It's like in the middle.
Like in the middle.
It's, it's in the middle between 400 and 500.
Between 400 and 500.
About, yeah. Wait, that says 600. My bad, I can't read.
Yeah. So this is reading 600. Okay. Brooks has an intuitive understanding of this. I'm gonna name him the pulley guy. Because he has intuitive understanding of pulleys. But we can explain this in terms of vectors. Thinking in terms of vectors. This all relates to something called force. None of us know anything about the force. As far as we know in our physics class right now, the force is something from Star Wars. So explain this in terms of vectors. What's going on here? I've got a vector here. And it's 1,000, whatever it is. And what direction is this vector going?
Downwards.
Down. And then I've got some vectors somehow up here that are about 500-ish. And see if you can explain that in terms of vectors. I want you to write up your explanation on a sheet of paper and turn it in. And if you get it, actually do it as tables. Talk about it at your tables and write all your names on one sheet of paper, turn it in, and I'll give extra points to every group that can explain what's going on here in terms of just vectors. Okay?
I need to stop on mail.
No, we just.
You should come try it.
I need
It's
to
pretty
stop
cool.
by the mail room because my notebooks have paper.
Yeah. I'll be right back.
Goes off.
I'm curious.
What year are you?
Senior year.
Going into medicine. Going into medicine.
Yeah. That's the plan.
If I ever get sick, I need to call. If I ever get sick, I need to call.
I guess so.
I'm taking it like that. Let's be
Someone who Victor.
For this, we all have to write on one.
In my case, 2 factors.
Feel a difference? Much easier. How would it make it even easier?
It's my accident.
Tomorrow at 8:30, you're doing like the whatever with the lab, right?
Tomorrow I'm doing AI and machine learning at 8:30. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be there for that, and then
Okay.
afterwards, can we talk about Go Baby Go and like figure out?
As long as, depending on when I'm done,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
I have class at 9:30.
Okay.
Well, we can figure that out.
Sounds good. So we'll figure out exactly
What to do,
direction and-
where to
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll think about it on my bike ride home so that I know.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Sounds good.
I'm just guessing.
Okay. Because I know I want to make it prettier, get the wires in action,